We're glad you're joining us for the first of our 2021 online seminars. My name is Joey, and I, along with my wife Kim, own Kirby's Nursery in Seffner, Florida, a suburb just outside of Tampa. And if you're joining us from outside of the area, you know us as the Kirby's Houseplant Shop. Plants are amazing. We don't give them enough credit for what they do. Every breath we take has at some point been exhaled by a plant. They clean the air around us, making the air fresh for us to breathe, and they look great while they're doing it. I think they keep us grounded as well, connected with something in the earth. And so today, we're going to talk about how to make those houseplants thrive in your home. So with our houseplants, the first thing we want to talk about is their location. Of course, they're going to be inside of our homes, but we still want to make sure that they're getting an appropriate amount of light. Remember that low light does not mean no light. Plants thrive with plenty of sunlight. In the case of houseplants, we typically select plants that do thrive in lower light conditions, but they still need some sunlight coming into your home in order for them to thrive. You probably remember Roy G. Biv. You know the colors of the rainbow from back in grade school. They're also the colors of our visible spectrum. And what's important for plants is that photosynthesis, which is what makes food for plants, only occurs in the blue-violet and in the red ranges of lights. In our interiors of our homes, we have lots of lights, but they only produce light in the yellow-orange portion of the spectrum. And so our indoor lights are not enough for plants. So make sure that you pick an area that in the middle of the day, if you were to turn off the lights, is still fairly bright. There's still sunlight coming in. That's a good indication that plants are going to get enough light to grow well. A few symptoms that you can look for if you think the plant isn't getting enough light are going to be long stems, spindly or small leaves that may show that that plant's trying to grow towards the sun. Yellowing leaves or just an overall sense that the plant's not growing may also indicate that it's not getting enough light. If it's a variegated plant and you see those leaves turning more solid green, that's also a sign that the plant may not be getting enough light. Move it around, find a slightly brighter location, and hopefully you'll turn it around and the plant will begin to thrive for you. Also remember that plants can get too much light. We're here in Florida where the sun is intense in the summertime, and a western window may not be the right spot for a houseplant, so you may find yourself seasonally moving those plants to make sure that they are in just the right amount of light for them to thrive. So as you're selecting a location for your houseplants, make sure that you pick a nice bright area. And don't forget, you might have to experiment a little bit. You might have to move them from one place to another to find that sweet spot where they really do their best. Everyone loves to come in and tell us they don't have a green thumb. Well, we promise we can turn your thumbs green. But the first thing you've got to ask yourself is, what do you think is the biggest problem for houseplants? You might think that it was light. You might think that it's general care, but it's actually water, and it's usually overwatering. We love our little plants so much that sometimes we kill them with kindness and just water them way too much. Water is important for plants, but not too much of it. What your houseplants really want from you is consistency. They don't want to go too dry, they don't want to go soggy, and they certainly don't want to ping pong back and forth. A rule of thumb is to water your houseplants just as soon as the soil dries out. But one thing to remember is that too wet can often look like too dry. Wilting leaves, things that might make you think that the plant needs water, are also signs that the plant has too much water. So the key is to check first. Stick a finger into the soil and an inch or two down if you feel dampness. Don't water that day. When you do water, you want to soak them thoroughly all the way through the roots. And try to do it in the morning because plants love having water available to them during the day when they're making food. Finally, make sure you use good, clean water. No chlorinated or softened water. Those aren't great for your plants. Distilled or rainwater are ideal ways to go to keep those plants looking great. In our homes, we air condition or we heat depending on what part of the country you live in. And that takes humidity out of the air in our homes. And that's not great for plants. All of these houseplants are used to being in a tropical jungle or a rainforest. That's where they would have natively grown. So we want to add back a little bit of that humidity. If you've grown calatheas or ferns and you've had problems, it's probably because the humidity wasn't high enough around those plants. So there's a couple of things you can do to help with the humidity. The first and probably the simplest way to do it is to spritz them with a little bit of water. Just a fresh spray of water near or around their leaves, doesn't have to be directly on them, can help increase the humidity in the air around them. Another way to do it is to take an empty saucer or tray, fill it with gravel, and then only about halfway with water. We don't want to put the plants into the water. We're going to set them on that gravel just above the water. And the water in the tray will slowly evaporate, and as it moves through the air, it also increases the humidity around those plants. Humidity will help those plants thrive. It helps them get the food and the light that they need in properly, and it will help to stop those little brown tips on some of your favorite houseplants. Our plants need to be fed, and inside in our indoor environments, they don't get the natural nutrients that they might outside if they were planted in soil. So we've got to give them the nutrients they need to grow. You can do that in one of two ways. You can either use a controlled release fertilizer that you would sprinkle on the top of the plants. That's going to last for like 90 to 120 days. You've seen this kind of fertilizer before. It's on the top of plants, and it's a little ball that's either green or blue or yellow. That's a controlled release fertilizer, and it slowly releases nutrients to the plant. Nice and easy because you only have to do it once every few months. Another way to fertilize your plants is to use a liquid fertilizer. That's a little bit faster acting, can help green up leaves if they're starting to look a little bit yellow. We'll do that once a week. In kind of place of your watering, you'll usually mix that fertilizer with water and then water your plant with those great nutrients to feed them and keep them growing. To keep our houseplants healthy, we also want to watch for insect or disease issues. These creep up occasionally. You want to be ready for them. It's much easier to preventatively treat than to have to take care of a problem that's been going on for some time. Our go-to treatment for both insect and disease issues is neem oil. It's natural, derived from the neem tree, and is safe to use on those plants in our indoor spaces. Use them at the first sign of any problem. Maybe you see some chew marks on a leaf, you actually see a little bug or two, or maybe there's just a strange lighter color to the leaves that might be an indication that there's an insect issue. At that point, mix up some neem oil and spray twice weekly to get the problem under control. Diseases may show up as spots on the leaves, either black or brown. And if you see any of those, treat in the same way. Mix up some neem oil, spray twice weekly until you get the problem under control. With your sharp clippers in hand, trim away any dead or yellowing leaves on the plant. That gets those out of there so they can't cause any other problems for the plant and makes them much more beautiful in the first place. That's the simple part. Then we're also going to do a little pruning sometimes on our plants to make sure that their size is restricted. That can be pruning a long vine off of a trailing pothos, branches off of your fiddle leaf fig, or some of your other plants as well. Pruning gets a little bit more involved, so we'll do another video on that in the future. If you're like me, there's more dust settling in your home than you probably care to admit. But that same dust that you find on your furniture is also landing on your houseplants. So be sure to clean them occasionally to make sure that the leaves can get all the sunlight they need. For smooth leaf plants, a simple sponge or damp cloth will do. Wipe the leaves clean, and they're going to look better than ever and be able to take in that sunlight. For plants that might have a hairy or a bristly surface to them, a soft brush will remove the dust from them. And then other fine textured plants, maybe like a fern, put that guy in the sink or the shower and spray him with water, and that will wash the dirt and dust away, dry them out completely, and return them to their spot. Clean leaves mean healthy plants. And there you have it, some of our tips for growing great houseplants. We hope you enjoyed it and look forward to seeing you in the future as we dive deeper into the amazing world of houseplants. We know that some of you asked some specific houseplant questions. Check out our other video where we address everything you want to know about houseplants.